Good Up is our space to talk about those experiences in life we didn't know we all had in common. We're the after work happy hour conversation with your best friend.
You good up bad, like, hello.
The place where you bring up the hard parts of life, the ones that made you laugh, and the things that made you who you are. Because who said becoming good up wasn't a little bit uncomfortable? Stay tuned for more information about this week's episode.
The following is a paid advertisement by Empath Psychological Services. This episode of the Good Up Pod is sponsored by Empath Psychological Services, locally owned, millennial-operated therapy for Virgin Islanders by Virgin Islanders. Here at the Good Up Pod, we're all about shedding light on life experiences that have contributed to who we are and learning to navigate them to find a feeling that's, well, good up.
For some of us, that journey includes therapy. Empath Psychological Services operates with the belief that life's challenges are not all of who we are.
They aim to create a non-judgmental environment to help their clients harness their own power and to find their path to mental well-being. Good Up and Empath Psychological Services share a passion for helping others navigate their own healing their way.
If you're interested in teletherapy services in the U.S. Virgin Islands or the state of Texas, check out the link in the description box for more information on how you can book a session with Empath Psychological Services. Hey, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of the Good Up motherfucking podcast. Deidre.
Hey, girl. What's going on? Girl, you look good. Hey, I look so good right now.
I feel cute, but I feel like shit.
You feel like shit? Why?
Yeah, I mean, listen, podcast audience, we being transparent. If you don't like to talk about periods, well, fuck you. Listen to our podcast.
How you a whole grown up?
Period. It's day 2, okay? And my period ain't like your little cutesy bitch periods where I fuck light for one day, you'll be cramping a little bit like, oh, what was me? My shit to come to rip down house and home, okay? My uterus is pissed the fuck off that I chose not to get knocked up this month, and she's letting me know.
She's like, hey,
possible. Okay.
You know what would be really fun in here? A baby. So since there is none, watch this.
Listen, she'll walk in, she'll be like, oh my God, I got the egg. I decorated. Are you so excited? I'll be like, actually, not this month.
Not this time.
Maybe,
and she'll be like, does she rip the curtain down? Like the dramatic jet.
You fucking bitch. That's her only job. But anyway. I've been miserable since yesterday. My cramp's been cramping. I've been up since like 5 o'clock this morning. Periods come with sleep deprivation, if you didn't know. Sometimes, because you get up thinking you done bloody up the whole. It's like a crime
No,
scene.
that's my least favorite thing about having my period. Like, I don't be so paranoid. Like, I have specific sheets just for my period, just to be on the safe side.
Listen, man will be like, oh, in a serious, I feel like I am being dramatic. Like, have you ever seen somebody get shot? Now imagine walking around like that for 7 days. So she showed up, and long story short, listeners, I know the listeners like, I thought this was an episode about siblings. Why?
Yeah, they're like, why are we talking about here this period?
But this is what siblings do.
Big facts. Because hey, Isa is literally one of my siblings.
Yeah, people will be like, how many sisters you have? 4. Anyway, so resetting myself. So for context. I look good, but I don't feel good. But thank you anyway, Deidre, because like I feel like I look cute. I feel like I look.
No, you look really good,
which is relevant.
You look amazing.
I look like my older sister right now.
You do. Your mama made some beautiful daughters.
She did. Shout out.
Y'all are good looking.
I know you don't.
Y'all are good
to
looking.
Podcast because we started off on the wrong foot.
You literally created this podcast, and the first episode out, you were dragging that lady. I wouldn't listen to this shit neither. I would be like, "Fuck you and your little podcast," but congratulations.
Right. Looking back at the episode, I would argue that I didn't fully drag my mother. I was just honest about what I feel was missing.
That's true. You didn't drag her.
I don't think it was a dragging because I could have been like, I could have said a lot, but I didn't.
Yeah.
You know the Ariana Grande clip where she would be like, I could have said, Sundays and Ricky. No, I'm like, he's trash. But I didn't say that. I said, no,
I love that song.
All right. Well, listeners, welcome back to the Good Up podcast. It's so good to have you back. I love the love that y'all have been giving season 8 so far. It's been fucking dope. Our patrons are hilarious as fuck, so shout out to y'all. This week's episode, I am so excited for it, and the reason I'm excited for it is because as I was planning it, I was getting like emotional just thinking about like my people. So we always talk about the things we learned from, right? We did the things we learned from our mothers. We did the
Yes.
things we learned from our fathers. We did exes, but we haven't done siblings.
I,
We have not done
listen.
siblings. And I know my sister, I'm clenching it, but her cheeks like, this bitch about to, what she about to do on this
Was she about to
podcast?
sever me? Listen.
But this isn't it. This ain't a Mela episode. It's more of
Ata.
a appreciation episode for our
Yeah.
siblings, because you are who you are because of the
Mm-hmm.
people you were raised around and the people you grew up with, and your siblings are a
Facts.
part of that. So I wanted to make sure
Absolutely.
we have this conversation. So I'm gonna throw the mic to you, Deidre. How many siblings do you have?
So I have like biological siblings and I have bonus siblings. So I group them all together. Um, I try to count because it's a lot. Like my biological siblings, it's me, Diamond, my big brother Dean, and my big sister Olivia. And then I have like all my siblings, like the whole squad. I have Terrence, Chris, um, Darren, Carl, Cherise. Like I have so many siblings. I think it's like 7 of us in total.
So how do you consider like bonus siblings versus like
So
friends?
the bonus ones would be like, for instance, like my big brother
Mhm.
is he's what the girls would say my half brother, right? Because this is my father's
Mm.
son, but he has a bunch of siblings on his mom's side. And we all are
Oh.
tight. We're all close. And I remember as kids, we all just kind of were like, we all had my big brother in common. And
Mhm.
one day we were all going out with my big brother. And my older sister, Cherise, was like, what do we tell people when they ask like who we are to each other? And we're like, I don't know. Like, and we were like, and then she was like, well, you know what? Dean is our big brother. So we all just siblings. And we were like, you know what? Period.
Yeah.
And we all just we were like, fuck it, we're all siblings, which is
That'll make
legit.
life so easy.
It's
Like
so easy. And
that
so like
whole step, half,
it's
this, that.
dumb. It's dumb.
For
And then
me, it
like our
depends on
family.
like how we were raised together, like what relationship we
Exactly.
have.
And so that's what I'll give to my brother. My big brother is a mother skunk, but one thing that man is family oriented, right? And so he he would have all his little, and he was the oldest. He's my dad's oldest and he's his mom's oldest. So he has all these little siblings, right? And he would do his very best to guide us and lead us in the best way he could, because Lord knows it was a mess. But in any case, he brought us all together, and it was that. And then I have my little sister, who my dad adopted, well, fostered, which even though she's not officially adopted, she's still like our baby. You know what I mean? So that's my
I
little
love that.
sister. Yeah, I have a lot of siblings, biological and not. And so, Dylan, at the very least, he's got a big family. He's an only child, but he got a big ass family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how to be trying not to tell Stevie, Anyway.
Mhm.
I have 3 siblings. My brother is the oldest, and then I have 2 sisters who are both older than me. I am the baby of the family.
Mhm.
And I love to say that I actually have 4 sisters, because I do claim Deidre and Diamond as my actual sisters.
Period.
Because our dynamic ain't like a friendship thing.
No, we're actual sisters. We're literal sisters.
Like we don't
We
act like
are.
actually like that's my family.
Yep. And not to cut you off, but I didn't even factor in my big sister's siblings on her father's side.
Oh yeah, see,
And we are all
got
just
a big ass
I know, but
family.
go ahead, girl. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's honestly just the 4 of us as far as like my mom and dad's kids, and we're
Yeah.
all like we have the same parents.
Yeah.
There is an arguable maybe, supposedly.
We love a scandal, honey.
But that's never been confirmed, so I won't go there.
Yeah. Hey, maybe. Shout out
But
to
yeah,
you.
I am the youngest of 4. I
Oh my
am like
gosh.
13 years younger than my oldest sibling.
Mhm.
So it's a range. Maria had her first 2 and then waited like 8 years. I was like, fuck all that, and then had her last 2.
You
really
know, a
close
lot of people
together.
do that. I had a boss who did that. He had 4 kids and they did the same thing. They did 2, they waited like 5 or 6 years, and then they had another 2.
Yeah, she had her first 2 very close together. So my 2 oldest siblings are 2 years apart, and then me and Z are 3 years apart. So you kind of see the dynamic in like who was closer growing up because
Yeah.
of the closeness in age.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that leads me into my next question. So
Mhm.
what was the relationship dynamic like between you and your siblings growing up? Like, were you closer to specific people? I mean, that's a given because you have a twin,
I have a
but
twin, so
were
that's
you
like a special
closer to a
circumstance.
specific person or like a specific sibling? Has that changed over
So you
time?
want to know something funny? Okay, so obviously it's expected that the twins are going to be like tight,
Mm-hmm.
right? But even though me and Diamond are super tight, we still have like our older sibling. Like my big sister and Diamond, they have like first of all, my big sister thinks she's our mother. Like legit, my big
Yeah,
sister don't play
that
about we.
always happened.
My big sister always said that we's her first children, and then she had them sons of hers. But as far as like closeness goes,
Mm-hmm.
it's understood that I'm my big brother's favorite. Like Deidre is Dean's favorite. Like, and if anybody wants to debate me, you ain't even gonna debate me about that. It's just known. Like everybody knows it. So, but then Diamond and my big sister to spoil the fuck out of Diamond. That's all I'm gonna say. Olivia, if you listening, if you watching, you spoil her. Okay.
Deidre, like, I guess something to say.
I got
Can I
something to
get a
say.
fucking mic to say?
I don't care if Katrin or I don't care if my parents have favorites, but my big sister to spoil Diamond. Okay. So me and my siblings we're all extremely like protective of each other.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the best way to describe the relationship. Naturally, me and Diamond have a closeness that we don't have with our other siblings, but we're also still very close to our siblings.
Mm-hmm.
Like extremely close. My big sister don't play about we certainly don't play about her. And my big brother, same thing. My big brother's a mother scum, but I still don't play about he. Like like
Dean listening to the podcast, like, God damn, DJ.
goddamn, teacher. Yeah, but yeah, man, we tight. Even like our siblings that are not our biological siblings, like we all just don't play about each other.
Yeah. And like, was there ever a phase? So for me, right, we have gone through phases as siblings. The four of us had times where like all of us were very close, and then we had times where like we grew apart. And then it'll be like one person closer to one sibling, but not to the other. Like the dynamics have kind of changed. I think that my parents divorcing kind of influenced that. I think that the age gap between the two oldest and the two youngest influenced that. There was a period of time where like I feel like my two oldest siblings had kind of resent me and Z for the type of childhood we had. So when they were coming of age, when they grew up, my parents were still married. My father was a very different person back then. We've talked about it a little bit on the podcast. So they didn't have the most peaceful like childhood
Home environment
type situation.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that because Z and I were growing up at a time, so my parents got divorced when I was like 8 or 9. Z was probably closer to 12. And we got to experience like our childhood and teenage years with a single mother who had a lot more freedom and could kind of decide what she wanted her house to be like a bit more. So like we had bitches had cable in the living room, shit was a little different.
Okay, because your father was pretty strict, right?
He was strict, and he was very, I don't know, my father, he was a monascan. He really was. But
you see who's the mother scones? The man.
yeah,
them.
the man them all the time.
It's always the man.
I think they have resent us a little bit for that, and they always used to like be like, "Oh, you didn't have the childhood we had growing up." And we were
my
okay,
God,
bitch, like we didn't ask to be here. Like we
right? If take it up with them. Don't take it up with us. Take it up with those motherfuckers.
But fuck, not me. But,
right. And I'm glad you mentioned that because my big sister had a very different. I mean, it's funny because my big sister is like 10 years older than me and Diamond, and so we were born in New York, but we were raised back home. My big sister was born and raised in New York. So me and Diamond were 5 when we moved to St. Croix. My big sister hated it. Her and my mom were fighting. It was the worst. She ended up coming back to New York to stay with my grandmother. So we, for majority of me and Diamond's lives, we had a long distance relationship with our big sister. My big sister, as far as she knew, at least until we reconnected and kind of talked about things, her home environment was a lot different than me and Diamond's, but she never took it out on us. She never resented us for it. Like she knew who to resent for that shit.
I think I mean my older siblings, I think they have always like loved us, but
of course
it was that dynamic to where like when we were going through my parents' divorce, like my siblings was already in college, right? So they already had their own lives. We kind of grew up for the most part without them, and then when we would go visit we would always go visit my older sister in the summer. So when people would be like, "Oh, you ever been to Atlanta?" I'd be like, "Dude, I spend most of my life in Atlanta."
Yeah.
But so she used to live in Atlanta. We would go see her, and I just remember with her, I think I struggled to have a close relationship because when we would go visit her, I was always the youngest, and she was like
Mm,
in her early adulthood, and Z was more of like a teenager then, so they had the same interests. They used to like to go
mm.
shopping. I used to be like, I would have rather fucking died and go to the mall. Can we do
Yeah,
something?
you want to stay home and play video games.
Yeah, like I was like, man, fuck this. So me and her had a very our relationship was a struggle growing up. I think we
Oh,
just get to the point with me being an adult now where like
mm-hmm.
we understand each other a bit more. But yeah, I
Okay,
used to get on her fucking nerves as a child. And it
I'm
was because of that.
dead.
It's because she's the oldest daughter, and oldest daughters
Are the family
have,
managers?
yeah, oldest daughters grow up with a burden that a lot of people don't talk about. And it's
Yes.
like you said, it's the family manager, it's the babysitter, it's you're
Mm-hmm.
expected to be the most responsible when it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I didn't have children,
Yeah,
my
they're
parents had
expected to
children.
forego their own impulses. They're not
Hmm.
allowed to like indulge in life. And children are supposed to, if the children have one job and it's to indulge in life. That's the way I see it.
Exactly. And
Because
oldest
part of
daughters don't really
they
get to
don't
do
get
that.
to do that. And it's
Yeah.
really shitty.
Aisha, which is my oldest sister, like she was such a big part of growing up. I remember her
Mhm.
like cooking for us and babysitting us,
Yeah.
taking us everywhere with her.
Yeah.
But looking at it now, if I was the oldest child
You
and
would hate that shit.
I would hate that shit. If I was experiencing my young adulthood and I wanted to go out here and do hood rat shit with my friends, and my mother would like bring your little sister,
Take your little sister. The fuck?
I would be fucking mean to my little sister too. Fuck you. You ruining my
Yeah,
life.
what the fuck is you doing?
Like,
I didn't make them babies. You did, you know?
like,
Like, I look forward to the way this alpha generation. First of
mhm.
all, I don't see millennial parents doing that to their children, but for the ones that will, I feel like the alpha is gonna be like,
No.
I did not make that baby. I know Dylan would tell me that because y'all know I'm one and done. But if I have a next child, Dylan is clearly going to be a lot older than that child. Imagine me telling my 21-year-old son to take his little 7, 8-year-old brother with to go do. He going to be like, Deidre, that is not my child. Like I could see Dylan saying, Mommy, I love the child, but it is not mine. Where
I
is the
just see
daddy?
a video like that the other day. It wasn't on TikTok, but it was on Twitter. Where this
Mhm,
little girl was like bawling, crying, trying to tell her mother like how frustrated she was because she's the oldest daughter,
mhm,
and I guess her younger siblings were getting on her nerves. And then mother
mhm.
thought it was so funny and like recording this girl having this little meltdown.
What?
And the little girl has sound like a little adult because she was just like, they don't listen. And when I try to tell you, you don't listen. And it
Oh
had
my
break my heart because I was like, why
gosh.
would you say? First of all, I hate when
I
parents
don't
do record their children or take pictures of their children when they
when
cry.
they're in distress.
I
I don't
cannot
like it.
stand
It
that
rubs
shit.
me through. And I'm always the annoying person in the comments to say, so we're all gonna just sit here and act
Yeah,
like it's okay for these parents to exploit their
same.
children's pain. Like I don't like it.
I
I saw this.
cannot stand it.
It's
I hate it.
crazy. She
It's
never listened
crazy.
to her daughter, but she wanted some fucking likes on
You
the
could have hear
internet.
the amusement in her voice when she was like, okay, and what else happened? And what else happened? And the little girl just like crying and saying like, yo, you not listening to me. I just want to play. And they like gaining my stuff and gaining on my nerves. And it's like, dude, you know how many people I know who are like the oldest daughter? And
Mm-hmm.
it's not oldest sons because my brother did not experience this growing up. My brother had a life, okay? He would
But you see what I
disagree,
said.
but he
But
had a life.
look at what I referenced. My big brother used to come for us. You know why? Because he didn't feel obligated to taking care of us.
Exactly.
He wasn't the family manager, so
Exactly.
he used to come for us because that's he come in, he having fun with his siblings, and he dropping them back off.
You
But
know what
he
else is a difference I saw too?
Mm,
So, and we could spend some time talking about his oldest daughter dynamic because now that I'm older again, I understand so much more about what my sister experienced and like
yeah.
I don't want to say why she was the way she was, but like I legit used to get into it with my sister all the time when I was a
Really?
teenager.
What's your
Yeah,
sister sign?
she's a Virgo.
Wait, how many Virgo sisters you have?
My mother is a Virgo, my sister is a Virgo, my father is a Aries, I'm a Aries, and
Oh,
then my brother and other sister are Cancer and Gemini, respectively. My household was
oh
interesting.
my God.
Yeah. So you had two Aries, two Virgos, and those were the two that were always at
Yeah,
it. My mother and my father were at it. Me and my older sister were at it
because
all the
Aries
time.
and Virgo squares each other on the zodiac.
Yeah. Yeah.
God
So
damn. And a square is beef.
yeah.
Like,
So That's the thing. I trying to tread carefully because like I don't want to talk my sister business, but I also don't want to like sound like I talking shit about my sister. But it's just
Mm-hmm.
I'm speaking from my experience, right?
Yeah.
When I was growing up, I felt like my sister did not understand me. And
Mm-hmm.
she always used to come to my mother and tell my mother, like, oh, why you letting she get away with that? Like, you really letting
Mm-hmm.
she do this? Like, she would always have commentary about, especially when I
Mm-hmm.
was in high school, about like something I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother would take that and then like flip her switch on how she, like, what she was okay with when it came to me, right? And
Okay.
then when we would go visit, I felt like no matter what I said or did, I was annoying my sister and she always had something to say to me, right?
Oh,
Given I was probably an annoying ass bitch. I don't know, right?
yeah.
If that this was my perspective. But looking back, my sister used to get so much shit from my parents for anything she used to do, right?
Mm.
My sister, when she was 25, got pregnant with my niece. And
Mm-hmm.
looking back, the way that my parents reacted to my sister's pregnancy, you would have thought that she was 16 years old
Are
when
you
she had get pregnant.
serious?
They were not it I mean the circumstances was a little bit difficult, but she was
Mm-hmm.
25 years old. She
Yeah, she's
was
an
in the
adult. Yeah.
States. She was an adult. She was living her own life. My sister has always been responsible with her life.
Mm-hmm.
She had a job. Like, it wasn't as if she was
Yeah.
out here
It's.
whiling, right? And my parents did not react well to it, right?
Mm.
But in contrast, when my brother broke off his long relationship, started dating somebody else, and all of a sudden this person was having a baby, and then he didn't even tell us. He just casually dropped that fucking conversation one day. Like, my brother used to be wild.
And they didn't do shit about it. They was
They didn't do
excited, wasn't
shit.
they?
But that had always been the dynamic between my two older
Mm.
siblings, is that my brother could have kind of do whatever he wanted and my parents would
Mm-hmm.
be okay with it. Whereas like my sister kind of had to struggle more to get what she needed to get in her life.
Mm.
And then
Yeah.
when she would make a mistake, they would treat it like she had like a scarlet fucking letter on her chest.
Mm.
So I think that for my sister, when I started to come of age and I was able to like live my fucking life, and my mother was
Yeah.
like, whatever,
Yeah.
that my sister was like, so
Like, bitch.
the
Like,
fuck? and
I could see
I
that.
and because me and Z are different personality wise, I used to go there with my older sister versus like Z, who would probably be like, whatever. Like, I would go there with her. So we just
Mm-hmm.
we used to butt heads a lot, I think,
Yeah.
until we get older, and I was like, okay, I kind of understand, like, I get it. I'd have
Yeah.
been mad too. I'd have been like, fuck that
Damn.
bitch.
I mean,
If that
shit.
was my life.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see
Yeah.
it. But yeah, you didn't talk shit about your sister. Just in
I
case you.
just I did
No,
tread
you weren't
carefully,
talking
dog.
shit about your
I
sister.
did, I,
I
I did
feel
tread
like you looked
carefully.
at the whole thing objectively. I feel like you spoke your truth, as the girlies love to say, but you also looked at things and you were very willing to look at her perspective. So don't feel like you were talking shit
Yeah,
because you weren't.
that's I will say that's recent though, because teenage hair is out and like young adult hair. So I used to be like, man, what the fuck is her problem?
I
Like,
love
she
that.
used to got my knobs, but I love it. So I guess my next question, and I kind of talk about it a little bit, but like, and you've mentioned it, is kind of your parents' dynamic and like
Mhm.
how your parents could influence the types of relationships that you have with your siblings. So
Oh, for sure.
did your older sister ever like talk to Aya about like that difficulty of your mother being like how your mother is,
Oh,
and her
eventually,
having to
yeah.
deal with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that it was an easier conversation to have when me and Diamond were adults and realized for ourselves how toxic the relationship was, right? Because as children, we didn't know any better. So my big sister didn't find it appropriate to say anything like that to us when we were children. So she never did.
Yeah.
She was never she was never shy about what she went through with my mom, but she never disparaged my mom. Like, she never talked shit about her, and she never told us like, oh, you need to. Me and Diamond always knew that my big sister and my mom had a difficult relationship, and actually me and Diamond spent a lot of our childhood trying to get them closer, and they would always try for their own sakes, because they do love each other, obviously. But they would also try, because me and Diamond would try to get them to like have a better relationship, and it never worked out. So naturally, considering the way my mother is, my mom always made my big sister a problem, right? There was actually a point where we didn't talk to our big sister for a few years. We actually had gotten in a fight with our big sister, like a physical fight, when we were 15 and she was 20. we were 15, so she was like 24, 25. And we all got in like a big we all got in a big broke down fight. And I'm not gonna go into detail about it, but we after that we didn't speak for a few years. And I think Diamond is who reached out to my big sister. Because at that point we were back in St. Croix. My big sister was still in New York. And I think Diamond is who like reached out to my big sister, and we kind of but my mom, it's funny because my mom she never really she kind of perpetuated the drama. I'll leave it at that. Or at the very least kept it going. I don't think she did a good enough job as a mother to encourage us to reconcile. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
And so as we got older, because again, me and Diamond were still teenagers at the time. So for one, my big sister never tried to talk about my mom or tried to tell us like, oh, you need to be careful with her or whatever the case may be. My mom always thought my big sister did stuff like that. My big sister never did stuff like that. So my mom was always paranoid that my big sister used to do that. By the time me and Diamond became adults and started thinking for ourselves and living on our own and taking care of ourselves, we were able to decide on our own and recognize some of my mom's like not so great tendencies, right? And then that's what made it easier for us to kind of talk with our big sister. And then we all kind of shared. That's why I said my big sister didn't, tell us how different her upbringing was until we were grown. We spent a lot of our lives as children thinking it was different. But then as we got older and became adults, we realized there were differences, but there were still also a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
So yeah, that didn't come till we were adults.
Yeah. My siblings and my sister I fuck all the time, and I remember being like, okay, great, sorry you had a hard life. Like,
right.
What the fuck?
She said, sorry you had a hard life. Yeah.
But then again, me getting older and looking back and thinking about like who my father was back then, and like for me, the way that my father was back then sometimes used to scare me, but I used to associate it with like, okay, when he drinks, he'd turn into an asshole. But when he's sober, he's fun. Because my father has, nobody likes to say that they're their parents' favorite, but like, look at the material. I just playing. I have no doubt that I am my father's favorite child. Like because I was the closest to him when I was younger. But me being
weren't you like born on or near his birthday too?
I was born the day before his birthday.
Get me out of here! I would have been like, just take that motherfucking baby and go.
Yeah, my father was like, that's my child. But my father was also, frankly, a terrible person to his wife, to his older kids. Like he was not a good person back then. Okay. But because like that was my daddy and he was so like, oh, he's my baby, like we had this close relationship, it allowed me to see past a lot of that shit and kind of associate it with like, okay, when he'd a drink, he'd turn into kind of a dick, but otherwise he's great. But me getting older let me realize that my experience with him was not my siblings' experience with him. And I remember at one point I have feel so bad and like I didn't want to have a relationship with my father because I have feel like if I stay close to him, then my siblings gonna resent me for like being the one that's close to him, even with everything that like he's done, right?
Yeah.
And it also like me getting older helped me to realize like, I imagine that like him being the way he was and then like not treating you like his quote unquote favorite must have sucked. Like
imagine he was probably mean as hell. Yeah,
he was kind of mean and he was like super strict on everything with my siblings. And then with my mother, like they were experiencing a woman who essentially was in an abusive marriage, not a woman who had freed herself from one. So
right,
of the mother that I grew up with was different. What we start to realize as we get older though was that like essentially everything I talk about in episode 1, my siblings agreed with. So
interesting.
They were like, yeah, they don't hug nobody. Like, that's a family. Like, what
the fuck? Can we get some hugs?
It was like, why are we not huggers? But all of this stuff is like shit we started to discover when we were older. And so I love the fact that like your older sister waited until you guys were old enough to really like understand.
Yeah,
I guess
she never
complicated.
Yeah, my big sister is so emotionally intelligent. Like, she, and that's why I said that lady. She really swears she's our mother. And she low-key kind of is. Like, you know what I mean? Like when I'm looking for that warmth, that nurturing, that like I'm going to my big sister. Let me tell you something. You know how people are always talking about any minor inconvenience, they call them their mother? No, I call her my big sister.
Yeah.
I kind of, let me tell you, I revert to like a child when it comes to my big sister. When I go to my big sister house, I'm not like, sissy, where is my food? What is happening? Like, and even like Dylan, like, first of all, you know, she swear Dylan is her grandchild. Okay. She don't say that's her grandchild. She just randomly called me the other day because you give my child his money. I said, excuse me, what? She's like, I Zelled you $25. So Dylan could buy some Roblox. I was like, first of all, I don't have Zelle notifications on. So I don't just be like glued to my bank account. She's like, well, I sent you money for my child. So make sure. I said, yes, ma'am. Like
when my niece was born, I didn't see nobody else. Fuck Ayo.
None of us existed.
Like, I am here for my child.
Right. Since my big sister is so much older than us, I became an auntie at a young age. Even my big brother also is a lot older than me. So I've been an auntie since I was like 5. But with my big sister, she's been the person with the kids among her siblings for a long time. She only became an auntie the year Dylan was born. She has 2 little nephews that are like 6 months apart. So my big sister had her 2 little sisters pregnant at the same time. I remember she and Daima were trying to have like a surprise baby shower for me. And what happened was I was making all these plans for things I was planning to buy, and Diamond kept trying to encourage me not to buy it. And I'm like, girl, I have to be prepared. Like, she was like, oh, God, Deidre, man, like, we're trying to throw your baby shower. I was like, oh, my bad, okay. But what they did was they lied to me and told me that my big sister can no longer come because the ticket prices was too high. So I'm being like, I was disappointed, right? And then a few days before the baby shower, Diamond was like, Deidre, after class, I want to take you to Eastern Pizza because I know your due date coming up. And I want us to have a little sister date before the baby comes. I was like, okay. Diamond comes to pick me up. We go to Eastern Pizza. I order my food. I feel a voice come from behind me and start like whispering in my ear. And I'm ready to backhand whoever this be. And it was my big sister.
I know you lose your shit.
I was big pregnant, jumping up and down like I was so excited. Just thinking about it that made me want to cry. I was so excited. And she came down. She put together this beautiful baby shower. She and Diamond, they put together a beautiful baby shower. My big sister could fucking cook. Okay, so I was just so happy to eat my big sister's cooking. Like,
see, the fact that I did that for you is like,
I love my sisters bad. When I tell you, we are obsessed with each other. I just came from like one of my coworkers. People will be fascinated when they find out that I'm a twin. So one of my coworkers asked me like, what is like being a twin? I said, honestly, like when me and my twin get together, people will be annoyed because we're obsessed with each other. Like, I was like,
it'll be so funny having the 2 of you on a podcast because like it's almost like your brains are in sync and you don't want to say what the other person's saying at the same time or like talk at the same time.
Yes.
And you, even on the phone, you two could understand each other when I'm talking that fast, but it'll be like, okay, slow down.
Yeah. I don't know. It's funny because my mom said that when me and Diamond were little, we kind of had this way that we used to talk that nobody else could understand. Yeah. And I was like really? Language. Yeah. She said we had a little bit of a baby language. She said you and Diamond will be in full conversations. And you know when we were in preschool, I didn't even know, but we'd be going a mile a minute. You know, another thing, when we were in preschool, they had to separate me and Diamond because we wouldn't play with any of the other kids.
But it's kind of, I reached into school and I was like, I have my bitch, thanks.
Who are you? Literally, like, we definitely didn't fuck with nobody else but each other.
I don't blame Ayo. So this is my next question. And you don't have to go into details, right?
Yeah.
But have you ever, what is it like to fall out with a sibling?
It's detrimental. It's terrible.
Than falling out with a friend or falling out in a relationship? Like, what is that feeling like?
You know what? I think it's the same. I won't say that it's harder or if anything it's easier because we know we're going to like reconcile. But in the heat of it, it's difficult. Me and my big sister, we haven't fallen out since that time, that big fight. Like, we don't have any. Me and my big sister, we're so harmonious. Me and Diamond, I'm not gonna act like me and Diamond have not had falling outs. I feel like they've gotten a lot better. We don't fall out often, but the times where we've fallen out, it was very explosive. It was a lot. It was big drama. But it never like lasts. The beauty in it is no matter how intense it feels when it's happening, and that fuck the feel intense, right?
Yeah, because nobody know how to hurt you like your sibling.
Oh my God, yeah.
Nobody know how to call you
Yeah.
on your shit like your sibling.
Like your
Like
siblings. And
we
so
dragging each other out of bed. Let's talk about the fact that you don't wash your hands
Ye-
when you leave the bathroom every time, you dirty
ew,
ass bitch. Like
gross.
not
No,
saying
so
that
the
this was
good
ever
thing,
said, but like this person knows
yeah,
you.
they
They know
know
your
you.
habits. They know your dirty secrets from the time you was
Yeah.
a
You
child.
you
Like
know what I will say of the falling outs that I've had with anybody else? I learned the most from my falling outs with like my siblings, specifically Diamond. Um, Mostly because for one, I learned about myself in a falling out with Diamond that I have this tendency when I'm extremely angry to black out and say really fucked up shit to people. And I didn't know this until Diamond called it out. And it won't even be fucked up shit. It's just the way I talk to people. Like I don't just black out and get like really disrespectful. And Diamond is who taught me that. She was like, Deidre, the last time we had a falling out, you looked me dead in the eye and said, and I was like, I said that to you. She's like, yes, bitch. So the good thing is once we talk things out, we're able to kind of learn how the other is impacting one another. And we're also very committed to never letting that fuck happen again, right? Me and Diamond are both very solution oriented. And anytime we've had a falling out, it'll get bad, right? It has gotten bad. The last falling out me and Diamond had was really bad. My big sister actually had to do a lot of mediating during that falling out. But we had to, for one, let time be a factor. We had to let time be a part of the healing process. But we also had to like really face like having to confront things. Because me and Diamond are both avoidant. We both have avoidant personalities. And so this is something like we learned from our mom to just like once something happens and we just kind of, my mom used to handle conflict by like letting things like sweeping things under the rug.
But while sweeping it under the rug, being very passive aggressive.
Yeah, like
because
so
that's my mother.
yeah, so with my mom is a very emotionally expressive person. So my mom is going to express things in a moment and all this shit, get into these big conflicts. But then when it's all over, it's just like acting like nothing happened. There's no, hey, let's talk about this. Let's try to get to an understanding of why this happened the way it did. My mom never did that. Me and Diamond, it's not in our nature to be that way. It's also not in my big sister's nature. My big sister is very good at confronting things. So me and Diamond had to learn through our past conflicts how to confront issues. And even if we're not able to talk about it now, one thing me and Diamond have gotten good about is saying we need to talk about this at some point. And we always talk about it. So I guess that's the beauty in the times that we've had falling out. You know what I mean? But that fucked to be hard though. That fucked to suck. Even the last, so remember I've been open on the podcast about the fact that I've learned how to process my emotions. And like when I'm having negative emotions, actually get through those emotions, acknowledge them, feel them, get to the like investigate them, all that shit. I learned how to do that, and I recognized that I was doing that the last time me and Diamond had a falling out. So I'm grateful for that, like, because that fucked up be wild. What about you and your siblings? I know we touched on it when you said you and Z.
Dog, me and Z.
I know Z don't be busting your chest.
Me and Z grew up together, right? So we had obviously the sibling fights you don't have when you're younger. Like I was the annoying little sister. I did not want to listen to anything Z had to fucking tell me because I used to be like, you ain't in charge, fuck you. Like I was a fucking brat when I was younger, okay?
Oh my God.
Looking back, if I was I'd beat my ass too. So we used to fall out over shit like that, and the reality of it is that like when Z start going through her like teenager years, Z, I sorry because I know you to listen to this podcast, you got turned into kind of a bitch, dog.
Oh my God.
I don't ever want to call my sister a bitch, but like Z was going through her like, I feel it myself a little bit. I'm a teenager, you're a kid, go the fuck away. Like I want to talk to my friends. I don't want to hang with you.
And you know the wild thing is because y'all are 3 years apart, I know between 11 and 14 was probably so difficult for y'all. Because it probably felt like, I know, it probably felt for you like it happened overnight where like 1 minute we were besties with the same interests and now you think I'm weird and annoying.
Yeah, because
that must have been so difficult.
She experienced puberty and it was like, we went from being thick as thieves to her being like, I would rather do other shit. And then now she's like dating and having boyfriends and all that stuff. And I also remember growing up very resentful of Z. And it's funny because you and I were having this conversation yesterday. Z was the pretty girl, right, in the family, and Z was a popular person, and Z used to get a lot of attention for how attractive she was. And I did not grow up like that, right? Obviously, I grew up in a
Damn.
time where like being the little fat girl was like not attractive. So I was
And she was a
resentful of
senior when
you.
you were a freshman, right?
Yes.
Oh, fuck
So
her. Excuse me. I don't mean it like that.
she going through like junior high, and her junior high experience is like so different from my fucking junior high experience. So I'm just like, this fucking bitch. I was a hater. I was a hater. I was like, man.
At least you know yourself.
And then the other thing too was that boys would become friends with me to try to talk to my
To
sister.
get, oh
And I
no,
used to be
don't
like,
do
here we
that.
fucking go again. Or they were,
Don't do
I've
that.
also had crushes on boys who would like flirt with my sister. I used to be like, what
Right
the
in front.
fuck? So
Oh,
I had a complicated relationship there. And then when I went to
yeah.
high school, my freshman year, I was like, finally, we're going to be in high school together. And Z, you ho, you moved to Atlanta. So she
She
moved to
moves to Atlanta
Atlanta with
to
my
be with
other
big sister.
sister. And then I was just with my mother. So, and don't get me wrong, that was great. I had a good time, you know, being my
You
mother only
probably had
child for a couple of
certain
years.
freedoms
I did.
that the
So,
others did not. The fuck?
so
Take it, girl.
she went to Atlanta for her last year of high school, and I had to experience like my freshman year with her, whatever. But with all of that being said, like our major falling outs, or like any major falling outs I've had with my siblings, were more difficult because of the way that I think my mother will handle conflict, right? My mother is the person who, when she pissed off with you, she's not going to tell you that she's pissed off with you, but she's going to show you that she's pissed off with you by like not speaking to you,
Oh,
or when
slamming
she talks to you,
doors.
slamming doors. They're like very passive aggressive.
Yeah.
And in turn, that's the way the rest of us learned how to navigate conflict. So when we would disagree
Yeah.
on something, or somebody would say something with a fucking attitude, and you're just like, what the fuck is your problem? Like,
Yeah.
that's how we navigated our, especially the four women in the family. So my mother and my
Yeah.
two sisters and me. Like, any real falling outs we've had has always been because somebody was talking to somebody like they were fucking crazy.
Oh, wow.
And instead of just saying, you did this thing, or hey, you pissing me off right now, like,
Yeah.
it would be passive aggression until like a big blow up, and then they would fall out. But like you said, we never fell out. At least for the women in our family, we've never fallen out to where like we haven't spoken for a long time. But we have grown apart and kind of like come back together.
Come back together.
So
Okay.
I did not have a close relationship with both of my sisters at the same time until probably when I moved to Florida, and like I was an adult, they were adults, and like again, I could see them for who they really was, and I was like, oh,
Yes.
okay, I get it. My brother now, that was, I think, the biggest falling out I've ever had with a sibling in my life.
Really?
Yeah, he long story short, he chose a woman over the family. And
Do you know that's what these men do? I don't know what it is. If Dylan ever,
I can't go into, as much as I want to go into details, right? Because this would be such a juicy episode if I did, right? Me about to talk my brother business because I love him.
It's crazy that both of our brothers
off.
is mother's cunts.
Listen, so it was a big falling out though. It was on some there was a point where my brother wasn't talking to us or my parents, and this person was the reason, and they were causing a lot of the drama. And I don't think that our relationship with our brother has like gone back. I don't know that it will go back to what it was before.
I'm so sorry. That's fucked. I would crack a joke, but I didn't realize it was that big of a deal. No, I'm so sorry.
It's that's the thing. We talk and we don't interact, but it's just we had a dynamic with my brother before that was like everything is fucking jokes. Like we like to hang together, and now it's kind of like it's nice to see you. Like kind of
oh my
awkwardness.
God,
and it's so painful to watch. But me and he follow.
And you know the sad thing? Does your brother have kids?
He has kids.
You know, they always say like the kids never really get to be close to the dad's family. That sucks. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. We're trying to like get past that and like have relationships with our nephews regardless, right? Like, yeah. And the thing is, like, I could see my brother building like a relationship with us again, and like we don't see each other more often now, I think, than we did. But it's because my family is so fucking conflict and confrontation averse. Yeah. If we don't ever sit down in a room and talk about what actually happened, I don't know that we're going to ever actually be able to like repair it. And that's the problem my family has, is that we don't have big blow up fallouts. But when we do have a falling out, we don't ever talk about it. We don't work through things as a family. Yeah. And then there's also not a lot of affection in our family. So Nobody gonna
Yeah.
say, hey, can we fix this because I fucking miss you. Everybody gonna say, man,
Got it.
talk to your brother. Like, they're
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
be
no, and that's
very
the thing,
like,
because we'd have been missing each other. Like,
yeah.
and this, so you know what's funny? So, you know, me and Diamond are Aquariuses, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the sun was in the fourth house in our fourth house when we were born. And that house is ruled by Cancer. And we all know Cancer is like the mother of the zodiac,
Mm-hmm.
very emotional,
My
very
brother's a
watery. And
cancer
then
too. We can get fucked.
me and Diamond are Pisces, Moon, Scorpio rising. So we're very watery. Even though we're Aquariuses, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
also very watery. My big sister is a Cancer. Okay. So the three of us, we be in our feelings. So we be
Mm-hmm.
having big emotions. Bitch, I miss you. Calm. We need to figure this shit. Even my big sister, like the falling out we had when my big sister was like mediating and stuff, she was working so hard for it to be resolved, but she just was like, we're not gonna do this, y'all. We're not
Yeah.
gonna do this. So we're not gonna do it.
That's the thing. My brother is a Cancer, right? I don't know I don't know the rest of his
Yeah.
astrological chart, but he's a Cancer. And I think my brother is that person who has these big emotions, right?
Yeah.
Because when we had the falling out, he used to say shit like, oh, I ain't the favorite of the family, and like they don't treat me like the black sheep, and da-da-da. Just he was on his little like crusade of like, this family don't treat me so bad type shit. He's my brother Psycho Rosie. So like,
Poor guy.
and I feel bad for him. I
Yeah.
do, because I think my brother, there was
You
hurt
know,
coming from someplace, right?
but yeah, because you know what? Because I think what's happening is you're having a hard time empathizing with him because of that only male child experience that you referenced
Yeah.
earlier, where there were things he could get away with that your sister could not.
Exactly.
Right. But the thing is at the end of the day, we also have to factor in that there's certain levels of affection and softness that boys are not granted from their parents.
That
So
I
while
think
he was given
we were getting that.
freedom, yeah, he wasn't getting that attentiveness because people don't quite pay attention to their boys the way they pay attention to their girls.
But
You know what I mean?
pissed me off, Deidre, is the fact that this was an assumption by him of this like relationship with our parents that we had, that we also didn't have, right?
Right.
And I think that if our parents had better equipped us to actually talk to each other and like resolve things like siblings,
yeah,
then we maybe would have had that conversation at some point and realized that we all had more in common than we actually thought we did.
Absolutely.
But instead, my brother decided he was on his fucking island alone, like Movado, and nobody could understand anything he was going through. So I still, my heart space still a little hot up about that fuck. So
Yeah.
the reason me and him ended up falling out, to give Aya some background, is because the original falling out between him, my parents, and my two older siblings, I was kind of too young to understand what was going on, right? I was in like junior high and high school when all of this happened. And because of his falling out with everyone else, he kind of pulled me into the group of people he wasn't talking to. And at the time, I used to worship the ground that my brother used to walk on, you know? So for him to also just cut off communication,
discard you,
it fucked me up.
Of course,
And
you were a kid, first of all, and kids don't understand those complexities of conflict. So
and
you
then
just
keep in mind, this is happening when I'm coming of age. I going through this phase where like a teenage girl could use her older brother, you know? And I didn't have him.
Yeah.
So the other part of it was that like, as much as our family used to get on each other nerves, we used to come together for shit like graduations and like big occasions in the family.
He didn't come to your stuff.
He didn't come to my high school graduation. He didn't even say congratulations. Big. Like, this was a cut off, as in no happy birthday, no.
How old was your brother when all this was going on? Was he going through his Saturn return? Because goddamn.
If I was, what, when I graduated high school, 17, and he's 13 years older than me. Yeah, he was probably like 30 when this was happening.
Yeah, this was all going on during his Saturn return, because goddamn, like that's harsh. And you ain't come to your baby sister graduation, damn.
Did not come. So then a couple years later, you know, we kind of back in communication, and one day me and my brother were texting back and forth about something, and he make a comment kind of like, this family, you know, like, you don't love me, and da-da-da-da-da, or some shit he said, right? DJ, I lay into this man so fuck, I went off.
Yeah.
And my brother went the fuck off on my brother. You had this falling out with the rest of your family, but you never talked to me about it. You did not know what my part in this was. You assumed that I would vex with you too. So this was the first time in my life that a sibling and I had actually like, this is the problem. And this is why it is the way it is. And I think ever since then, like, as much as we haven't gotten closer, we understand each other now.
Okay.
But my distant relationship with all of my siblings, like, the reason we aren't, or that we walking on getting closer now, is because of my parents, because
Okay.
they failed to kind of raise us in a way to where we felt like we could talk to each other when we have fallouts, where
Got
we could
it.
talk
Okay.
things out.
Yeah.
And then they didn't raise us affectionate. So
Yeah.
me missing my brother, I would never tell a man I miss he.
But do you miss him?
I do miss my brother. I would tell he now that I
I was
miss
just about
he.
to say, like, so now just start with the words
Oh
and
yeah.
work your way up. You
I
know you miss him, tell him.
Yeah, I would definitely tell my siblings that now, but I think younger me, it's funny, and we're gonna get to this question. I think this is the question that's gonna kind of lead us into this conversation. But the way that I see my siblings now and the way I'm able to have relationships with them now is a result of the healing work and the therapy that I have done on my own,
Yeah.
and I think that they have done on their own, and us being
Yeah.
older. But
Yeah.
it pisses me off that we were raised in a way that prevented us from having those types of normal sibling relationships
Yeah, I know.
growing up, when we could have, right? And we had all
Yeah.
these falling out and all of this shit that could have been avoided by us, I guess, having more like outward affection for each other.
Yeah.
But it's a result of the way that you raise. Like, your sibling dynamic is heavily influenced by
It is.
your
It
parents.
definitely is. For sure.
Like, when I don't see people, and I said this in an episode with talking about our mothers too. When I just see people, or when I used to see people like calling their siblings and talking to their sister them every day, or like hugging up on their sister, like, oh my god, I love she so much. I used to be like,
Yeah.
I would never do that.
Really? And that's the thing. So, like, me and Diamond are obsessed with each other. We talk like 95 times a day.
And y'all were an example of that. Like, you and Diamond's relationship, I was like, I want that with my sister.
And you know what? And so that's the thing. I will give that to my mom, right? She definitely encouraged me and Diamond to be very close. Some of the times me and Diamond have gotten in the most trouble would be where we would be having a falling out, and instead of our mom trying to help us resolve it, she would just be like, y'all are not gonna be fighting, and she would like force us to, and it would be like, bitch, if you would just shut the fuck up and let us process this, like but with our big sister, she didn't necessarily cultivate enough of that. My mom was a little instrumental in some of those divisions that have come between like my big sister versus us. But in any case, even like with my big sister, we don't talk every single day, but when we do talk, it's very much like that. We're loving up on each other. We're gossiping. When I tell you, me and my big sister will be ponging me about our family.
Oh yeah.
When I tell you, when my big sister call me, first of all, we don't, like I said, we don't talk every day, but when we talk, we're probably going to be on the phone for at least 2 hours. And we're going to go through all the motions. We're going to catch up. We're going to talk about how much we love each other. We're going to talk about the kids. We're going to go through some part of that conversation talking about some sort of ancestral trauma that we've healed or are healing. But we're going to run them by our family. We don't, if any of my relatives are watching this, just know me and Olivia to be on that phone gossiping about y'all. We gossip about
Z, right? The minute I see Z calling my phone, I'll be like, yeah, we about to talk fuck. Like,
we getting the snacks. We be talking cash. Shit.
How do you value your relationships with your siblings now versus when you were younger?
You know, it's funny. I feel like the way I value it now is like the adult version of how I valued it when we were younger. I don't even know if that makes sense, right? So as a child, I just knew like I had these siblings, they're mine, right? Like it's not gonna be perfect. We're not gonna always get along, but these are my people. Like, these are mine. As an adult, it's like the same, but like on steroids. It's like, it's funny. Last night, me and my sisters, we kind of have this little tradition that we started when I had Dylan. We don't have very many things from my grandma that she was able to like leave behind, like physical things, right? She didn't own property because she lived in New York. So we don't have like a house or anything like that grandma could have left behind. But me and my sisters, we share a crocheted blanket that my grandma made for my nephew when my big sister was pregnant with him. This was my big sister's first child. My grandmother crocheted a blanket for her, for the baby. When oh God, I hope I don't cry talking about this. When my big sister, because it's funny, because literally last night I told Dylan about that blanket. So when my big sister came to St. Croix when I was pregnant with Dylan, she brought the blanket and she said, make sure you like, grandma made this for David, keep it safe, make sure you wrap my nephew in it, like other. So Dylan has been wrapped in this blanket. I don't think I have pictures of him wrapped in it, which breaks my heart, but because I was so protective of the blanket, I didn't want him to vomit on it or nothing. I still have the blanket. It's currently on my bed, like under my pillows. I literally, when I make my bed, I lay it across my bed and I put my pillows on top. So last night when Dylan comes to my bed most nights, so I was getting the bed ready for us to snuggle, and I saw him kind of like prepare to lay on the blanket, and I told him about the blanket. I said, I don't know if you know, but my grandma made this blanket. So I told him how it used to be David's. I was like, if Nana ever decides to have kids, Dylan calls Diamond Nana. I was like, if Nana ever decides to have kids, then she'll get the blanket and her kids will be wrapped in it. And then, if I ever have another child, that child will be wrapped in it. But when you and your cousins start to have babies, this blanket will be passed throughout the family. So me and my sisters, and I told that little backstory about the blanket because my relationship to my siblings, me and my two sisters especially, like all my siblings have this, but especially me, Diamond, and Olivia, we kind of have made this like unspoken pact to create family traditions because we're all very like sentimental in that way. Create family traditions that our elders were not able to create. And we've done so much healing. Like some of the shit my family has been through, like y'all would be surprised if you hear some of the shit. Considering like the life my mom and like my grandmother and them had, it's a surprise that we've made it this far, right? So me and Diamond and my big sister have committed ourselves to creating family traditions for our children, making sure that they don't have to teach themselves certain things. And so my relationship to them especially it's one of the most important things to me, because I know like when we're ancestors, we're gonna be so proud to see the direction that we've taken our entire bloodline into. Like people that talk about breaking generational curses, right? People that talk about a fuck, right? But we've actually done that. My mother was a teen mom. My grandmother was a teen mom. Even my big sister was a teen mom. I was not. Okay. My mother didn't get to finish her college education. My big sister did. Okay. My grandmother was very creative. Okay. Beautiful. My grandmother could have probably been like a singer and actress or whatever. For her time, that was not possible. I have no interest in being a singer and actress, but all the things that I'm good at creating, I'm going to put out. Like I still have an Instagram because of my grandmother. Like I don't even talk about that fuck. I just still put my heart and soul into because of my grandmother, because I have access to ways to become visible that my grandmother never had. So like that's my relationship to my siblings. It's like it's probably the most precious thing that I have, aside from like child. Like,
listen, I sit here like fucking chills getting tears, right? Because, like, I ditto to every fucking thing you said, right? I mean, I've said it pretty extensively in the episode already. I did not value my relationship with my siblings when I was younger at all. Yeah. We were sisters, right? Obviously, but I can't say that we had a relationship. And I think that I looked for relationships. I looked for sisterly relationships in my friendships with other women for a long time before I actually had one with my sisters, right?
Yeah.
I am not going to cry. So
right, that felt like
I think that becoming closer with you and Diamond. Oh my God, I don't want to cry.
Don't cry, because hey, that's what I said, me and Diamond. Because if y'all see me, Diamond, and it's a group chat, y'all gonna be like, if these sappy bitches, like we don't be in that group chat, really, like.
I know the Patreons like, bitch, you crying, you ain't it. Anyway. But becoming closer with you and Diamond allowed me to see the type of relationship that I wanted with my sisters, because I will give that to me. Oh my God, I want to cry. I gonna have to let myself cry, because if not, I
just feel your feelings, girl. Just feel your feelings.
Because I was so affectionate. I was like, we would be getting off the phone and I would be like, I love you, and I'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, we legit. But now, hey, I gotta say it freely because we love each other. You know what it is because like life is social, and obviously like the likelihood of one of us like getting hit by a bus is not that high. Really, but life is so short.
Exactly.
For me, I just want for there to never be a question in anybody in my life's mind. Like if for any reason this is our last time talking, it's important to me that you know that I love your mother Scott. What the fuck?
No, but like,
like wow.
Me having that like sisterly relationship with you and Diamond, I was like, okay, I could do this. Like I could have this with Z. I could have this with Aisha. I could even have it with my brother. Like if I really try. And that's why, like, I'd be like, no, Deidre and Diamond is my sisters, because, like, y'all taught me how to be a sister, right? And I was able to take that, and obviously, like, out of healing and therapy and all of that shit as well, and, like, go back to my sisters and start approaching my relationship with them differently.
Yeah.
But I also think that my grandmother passing away made me realize, like, it was like at her funeral looking at my sisters being like, and my brother being like, this is it. This is the people I have, right?
Yeah.
And I remember being at my grandmother's funeral and seeing that of all her siblings, there were only like 2 left. And seeing how heartbroken it was because she was the oldest sister and they had a lot of like falling outs.
Oh my God.
And them being so like devastated that she had passed away.
Oh,
and I remember thinking, like, I don't want to be at my sibling's funeral.
Yeah.
Regretting that I didn't have a relationship with her.
Facts.
Oh my God, why am I crying?
Girl, let it out. Let that shit out, because it's true.
It's like, that really was it. And I was in Florida living with him, and it's like, now I don't go to Florida, and like over the past, it's been like 4 years that we've just kind of been getting closer and getting closer. And this most recent time when I went to Florida, I remember getting on the plane to leave, I'm bawling, crying because I didn't want to leave my sisters.
Oh, I love that.
But like, I feel so happy because
to know that you have that deep feeling for them. Yes.
So like, I think that's why crying is not like sadness of like, oh my God, we have missed all of this part of our life. It's like,
being connected to those feelings.
It's feeling that connection with my siblings now, to where it's like, oh my God, like, I'd talk to Z or I'd talk to Aisha, and like, as much as it'll still get on my nerves, I'd be like, oh my God, I love my sister and body.
Doesn't
like,
it feel good?
My sister, yeah.
It's something. It's like, because these are the best friends that share blood with you. Like,
exactly.
These are your best friends. That's how come I said, like, I legit see my siblings as my people. Them, you know, like, these are my people. You know, and then it's like we look the same, we sound the same, you know, like we have these similarities, like, but still these differences, you know, like, what I mean?
You know, the podcast audience could feel like they know me because they know all of this stuff about my life, but the people who were there are my siblings, right?
Absolutely.
They watched me grow up. There was a part of that, you know, of that relationship when we were growing up. So when you talk about like breaking generational causes, me and my sisters even being able to sit with each other and talk about like mental health and talk about the things we're struggling with. And for me as an aunt to be around my niece and my nephews
and see that they have a different environment than their own parents had. Isn't that a blessing? My niece
to be able to like text me and like ask me questions, or just like us hang out and talk when my aunts and my relationship with like my aunts and uncles wasn't like that. It was very much like, oh, that's an adult doing, but it's different with us, you know?
Yes.
We ain't perfect, but like there are generational causes that are being broken with me and my sisters that like I feel good about. And again, I was over here bawling, crying, but it'll make me emotional because it's like I didn't think that I would have that with my sisters. I thought our relationship when we were younger was just going to be our relationship, and now I feel like no, like, you know, come my sister funeral or any other funeral, God forbid, I don't want it to happen anytime soon, but like I gonna know that like, wow, like we spent all this time together, like we had a relationship and like it was fucking awesome, you know? So that's my spiel. I don't cry and fuck I fuck
love
the patrons because you get to see me cry.
I love that. And you know, the thing is if you decide to have children, especially more than one, right, they're gonna have the kind of relationship, they're gonna probably have an even closer relationship, you know what I mean? Even like Dylan's obviously the only child in my house. He has siblings on his father's side, but they're a lot older than him. Like all his siblings are fully grown adults. So you know, he doesn't really know them. He's chatted on the phone with like his big brothers here and there. It's funny, his older sister Kayla, she and I have each other's numbers, and we text. She'll randomly text me to check in on her Dylan. Like you know, like even though they've never like met in person and had like a closeness, she's still like, that's my little brother, you know, like she'll hey Deidre, how's Dylan doing? You know, she was very invested in finding out whether or not he got into the gifted and talented program. It was like she was, you know, so
but that's good, like having that connection.
And because she lives in California.
Like families will let each other just grow apart and like do nothing
Yeah.
about it because of all kind of bullshit and complications.
Right. Exactly. It's weird. I mean, and I'm a very family oriented person. So even though like I'm not like close to his siblings or anything, I don't know them that well, but I had his older sister number and I texted her. I'm like, hey, like, because I think she reached out to me and she said, like, I hope you're okay with it, but I kind of would like to be able to like check in on Dylan. And I said, of course you can. Like, what? I was like, here's his. I actually was like, Dylan has a phone. Here's his number. Call him whenever you want. Text him. And because she told me, you know, if I ever visit New Jersey, I want to be able to come meet Dylan if that's okay with you. I was like, why would that not be okay with me? Like, what? Like, absolutely not. Like, I'm just so family oriented. I love family. And the thing is if the reality is there are people who have toxic relationships with their siblings, right?
Yeah.
I hope for your sake you created a relationship with your friends who became your siblings, you know, like, because we have friends that are our siblings too. Like, listen, my sister Nikki was my best friend since first grade. Nikki is my sister. Like, we don't even consider each other friends. We are sisters. Like, and it's like
I feel the same way about my best friend. Like,
yeah,
I don't see
like
her as my friend. Like,
that's not my
sister.
friend. That's my sister. You know, like Nikki will. Nikki has randomly sent me money and be like, "This is for Dylan." Like, I ain't getting like that's just, like we're sisters. You know what I mean? So as you go through life, like sisterhood and brotherhood, it's not limited to your bloodline, right? Like it's about your destiny. It's about your souls. So find your tribe, even if you ain't close to the sisters that the siblings that your trifling parents give you. Cultivate relationships with people, create sisterhoods and brotherhoods, because that fuck is everything. Fuck is everything.
I think that's my biggest emphasis about this whole the things we learn from series, which I really, looking back, I love how we've kind of broken down
so
the family
profound.
dynamic and like everything we've gone through with the people in our lives. But if you are not receiving the things that you need to be your whole self from your family, like let me and Deidre kind of be proof that like you can go to other people, to your friendships, to the people that the universe brings into your life,
outsource
and build
it.
those relationships. And sometimes in my case, building those relationships with other people could teach you so much about yourself and teach you those life skills that you didn't get from your family, so that you can then take that back to your family, right?
Exactly.
It's not always the end of the
real.
road. And like imagine if I had said, well, my family ain't affectionate and that's just it.
Exactly.
And you and Daima had tried to like love on me and I have been like, that's cute, but my family ain't affectionate, so
right.
And instead what I did was, okay, I'm obviously, the universe and my ancestors are sending me these people so I could learn how to accept love from the women in my life, so that I could take that and then take that to Z and to Aisha and love on them, even if sometimes it'll be like, get from me. But
but even them being like, get from me, that's a form of affection too. You know what I mean? Like,
and sometimes it'll kind of work. Like, I'll go in a group chat and I'll be like, hey, I love Ayo, I miss you, and Z will be like, get from here, man. Like, she will text back like, yuck, like, what the fuck. But then sometimes we'll be on the phone, I'll be like, okay, bye, love you, and Z will be like, love you. I hang up, I'll be like, yes. Like,
it's so weird.
So it's, you got to work on your people there, man. Like, especially Caribbean people. Like,
if you have to separate from your family, then do what you gotta do, but create a family in some fashion that you could hold on to your last breath about, because it's so necessary. It's so necessary.
I love it. But yeah, I love having these conversations with Ayo. Thank you for listening. Go on Twitter. This is your social media assignment. Go on Twitter or anywhere else, use #GoodUpTuesday and tell us what's your favorite thing about your relationship with your siblings. Like, what is the highlight of your relationship with your siblings? I want to hear all about it. Send me pictures of your siblings, because some of your brother them fine. I did this wholesome episode and still turned into a whore. Anyway, Deidre like, no, send pictures of your brother them. Send pictures.
You know, there was a time where I would want pictures of your dads. I've made a lot of progress. Okay, so send me pictures of your big brother.
Probably a little old enough too. Your older brothers.
Send me pictures of your older brother.
Yeah. With that being said, we will see Ayo back here next week on a Good Up motherfucking podcast. Deidre, tell the people them bye.
Bye.
Good Up is hosted and produced by Deidre Ritter and Hey Isaac Quinones Ivory. Find us on all social media platforms at Good Up Pod. Use #GoodUpTuesday to continue the conversation and get access to exclusive bonus content at patreon.com/gooduppodcast.